I love Leonardo DiCaprio. I saw him for the first time in the movie Titanic. He was just so cute and attractive, and I'm pretty sure I am not the only one who fell in that way. When I watched The Inception and The Great Gatsby, oh my God, I fell in love with him again. So you probably understand how shocked I was when I saw these photos on Google. It's really hard to believe that they are the same person. So what makes difference? That's the topic we're gonna introduce today. Clothing. Clothing matters. Clothing is worth your 1,000 words. It is a very effective non-verbal communication tool for 2 reasons. First, it affects how other people perceive you and behave towards you. There are a lot of research to prove this. For example, if you wear a suit and then cross the street against the traffic light, 3.5 times as many people will follow you as when you just wear work shirt or trousers, work shirt and trousers. Also, during negotiations, people in a suit are more likely to have a profitable deals than people in sweatshirts. And secondly, more importantly, it affects how you think of yourself, your self-confidence. We just did our power pose, Amy's power pose, like a superwoman or a superman. It helps us feel the power and confidence. And in fact, clothing can give you the same effect. It turns out that people in superhero clothing are more confident mentally and physically. So find your own superhero clothing. They fit you well and also make you feel very confident. So in sum, look good, feel good, do good, and present well. How are we going to do this? With an AIM framework: audience, intent, and message. And Edward will introduce how you can connect with the audience through your clothing.
Thanks, Yena. Before I start, when was the last time you walked into a room and the first thing on your mind is, gosh, I wish I wore something different? I think it's a very painful experience for those that have experienced this before. And let me offer you 3 questions we can ask ourselves how to connect with the audience and avoid this from happening again. So first question, we ask ourselves, who are they and what do they wear? To guide our thinking, let me refer you to a book by a leading image consultant, Sylvie Di Gasto, titled The Image of Leadership. In it, she describes 5 simple levels of business wear. This takes out all the ambiguity about what's casual, smart casual, business formal, But what is important is that we can use this to apply to our everyday business wear. So it ranges from the very formal boardroom attire, like what I'm wearing right now, all the way to the Silicon Valley baseline casual, similar to what Brandon is wearing. And in between, we have the mainstream casual, like Ryan, and the executive casual, like Yena. And based on these 5 levels, we apply the +1, -1 framework. How it works. So you identify what your audience wears, okay? And then you wear 1 step higher, more formal, okay? So that you create that sense of presence and the sense of executive confidence. And then one trick is that you should only step down, dress less formal, maximum 1 step, only when they invite you subsequently to a casual event. Second question to answer is, what do they expect? What do they expect you to wear, specific to your industry, to your role? This is a tricky question because often between specific professions, there are a lot of unsaid and unwritten norms for dress codes. But often the easiest way is to ask people who work in those industries as well. Probably, and a more easier way is to actually observe what people wear around us every day. And the Stanford GSP is the best place to learn. Take, for example, You have Eric Schmidt, Raymond Nazir, and Peter Wender all teaching the same class by wearing different attires every day. So, but what really stands out for me is actually Raymond Nazir's use of a bow tie. It makes him really stand out from the crowd, but also adds to his credibility as a public relations expert. Thirdly, we should understand how they feel. The idea here is basically we should augment our attires with symbols that triggers emotion in our audience. What I mean by that? Take for example, if you go for an interview with the government, the best tip I can give to you is to wear a flag pin. Instantly, your interviewers will see you differently. They will like you. And the reason is because they don't see a flag pin. What they see is this. With this, I'll hand over to Ryan to talk about how to communicate intent and message with our attire.
In most situations, simply meeting the norms and expectations of your audience is not enough. You also need to consider what you wear says about you as a person, as well as an organization you may be representing. If you dress in a way that's not comfortable for you, you can come across as inauthentic and create cynicism. This is a picture of me when I was working at a startup this summer and made an effort to try and downplay the fact that I was an MBA. For better or for worse, what you wear says a lot about who you are as a person. There's the obvious, straightforward stuff. You want to look well put together and prepared, and wear something that makes you feel confident as well as comfortable. But there's also a lot of trade-offs that go into these decisions. Consider when you first go to work at a company next year and you're giving your first presentation. Do you want to dress in a way that establishes your authority, or do you want to come across as a more relatable peer? Are you someone who's more laid back or more buttoned up and formal? And do you want to represent kind of the status quo, traditional culture of the organization, or are you someone who's going to rock the boat and be more progressive? This becomes even more challenging when you factor in the brand of a company that you may be representing. So take, for example, if you work at a Silicon Valley company and you're meeting with investment bankers in New York, do you put on just your freshest hoodie and with the company logo on it, or do you go out and buy a pair of cufflinks in an effort to kind of fit in with the expectations? You could do what Zuckerberg did and try and compromise, but the reality is that oftentimes these two aspects don't overlap completely, and at times they may be in direct conflict with each other. So the first thing you need to do at a minimum is understand what it is the brand of a company or organization or cause that you're representing is. And then you want to make a conscious decision of deciding whether you want your message, the message your appearance sends, to align with that or contrast it. At times, emphasizing an aspect of your brand can be beneficial, such as Vice's Shane Smith, emphasizing the fact that Vice is an edgy, kind of next-generation news organization. Sheryl Sandberg kind of takes a different approach and gives an era of kind of professionalism that Facebook culture typically is not known for, and it's kind of a way to say that there's an adult in the room. This can sometimes backfire in situations that I've seen. If you're working at a very traditional company and come across, try and impersonate Steve Jobs, that can question the authenticity. Or if you're working at a cutting-edge company working on quantum computing and you dress more like a salesman, that may question how credible the organization is. So how do you meet these challenges? Just like you would in preparing the content for your presentation, you want to make an explicit decision about what message you want to communicate. You want to dress with intent and make sure that everything you wear aligns with that. Visual elements of a presentation are often most memorable and will leave a lasting impression. So at the very least, you don't want to leave this up for misinterpretation or ambiguity. If you can be consistent with the company brand that you represent, that's great. And if you want, you can also contrast the message. But either way, make sure you do so deliberately. With these principles, Brandon will now talk a little bit more about how to do this in practice.
Great. Thank you. So I'm going to give you a few key tips for successful execution of dressing for communication. The first tip, plan ahead of time. Now, when you plan ahead of time, that doesn't just mean knowing what your superhero costume is. That's important. That's great. But it's also looking in your closet, making sure it's there. It's picking it out. It's ironing it. It's doing all the prep work you need to do. Who here has moved recently in the last 18 months? Everybody in the room probably, or most people. I've moved 4 times in the last 18 months. Last year when I was interviewing for the first time, I knew exactly what I wanted to wear. I knew it down to the wire, down to the sweater. But guess what? It wasn't there. I didn't actually go to the closet, pick it out, look at it, iron it, do all the things I was supposed to have done. And guess what? That affected me during the interview. Missing that key piece of clothing, missing that sweater, changed the interview from being great to the interviewer at Apple asking me why I was wearing a suit jacket. It affects you. Second thing, think about travel. And this isn't just a former consultant telling you to pack your bag a week ahead of time because you're about to get on a plane. This is thinking about every aspect of travel. How are you getting from your house to the place where you're presenting? Are you biking? Are you using the subway? Are you flying? This all indicates ways in which you may think about how you need to get yourself there, what you should wear when you get out of bed, should you change at the location versus changing at your home. These are all considerations. Finally, let's talk about communicating as a team. Thinking about how you want to work as a team. Whether it's everybody's wearing all black, whether it's you're communicating by having different styles and being contrasting. All these are key things you need to think about because 2 things could happen potentially. You could be at a completely different level as your colleague. That might not be okay. Or maybe you're all wearing the exact same thing. And while that's okay in the case of a wedding party, it may not be the image you want to present if you're going to an interview or if you're presenting as a team. So those are just a few of our key tips. But we also wanted to talk a little bit about, what do breaking the fashion rules really mean? This is Lady Gaga's famous meat dress that most of you will probably recognize. And, the day after she wore this, a lot of people said this was a fashion don't, breaking all the rules. But as you think about the rules that we have discussed today, knowing your audience, knowing your message, knowing your intent, dressing the way that makes you feel confident, makes you feel good, planning, executing, and thinking about every step of the process, I'd say she did pretty well. If you think about these steps, if you think about these tools that we've discussed today, I think you might have this kind of effect on your audience as well.